Hi folks, welcome to Thursday. We are nearly at the end of the week. You're doing so well in getting yourself to the end of the week. Well done to you. Firstly, if you like what I do, patrons down below, becoming a channel member also really does help me out as we're going into these pressing times towards Christmas. But I do absolutely love Halloween, so I'm really looking forward to that. May do a big old stream this year, I'm hoping to anyway. Firstly, I wanted to just talk about, the last few videos have been pretty heavy in their content, so I wanted to do one with a bit more brevity, a bit more of the old rantage that I know you guys seem to like. So I wanted to get on and do that, and make sure that you guys had at least some laughter going into the end of the week. I'll be doing more Hobby Nightmares tomorrow, they will be with you, and then we will have the weekend where I will be doing some streams, hopefully. I may be out on Saturday with the Sproglet, with the daughter. But on Sunday, I may be able to do a stream, which I will very much like to do. So the subject of today's video is why Games Workshop managers despise you. Right? And I'm not using that word as a... Well, I'm not trying to be sensationalist here. Every Games Workshop manager I know, and including myself and any others that I've spoken to, has a deep disdain for hobbyists, for the most part. And it's something that is at once hilarious as a phenomenon, but it's also kind of tragic. But we needed some levity, so here we go. I wanted to talk about why so many Games Workshop employees actually loathe hobbyists for the most part, and I'm not joking when I say that, seriously. No matter how much they smile and talk to you, deep down, each of them really resent certain parts of the hobby and those who partake in it. This may seem harsh, I'll be honest, but at most, I myself only liked most members of my community in the store, not all of them, and I was the kind of guy who liked most of the people in my store as well. This does not mean I hated you out of the gate, but for most people, the experience of the hobby is spoiled by the job that you have, right? For most people who work for Games Workshop, our hobby is spoiled by our jobs. It's very rare at Games Workshop that you are paid enough to enjoy your hobby and also not engage with the more toxic sides of it. Whilst you are only exposed to the toxic parts of the hobby, Games Workshop managers face that kind of thing every day, right? You guys only get exposed to it once in a while. You know, once in a while you'll come across a toxic person, you'll come across somebody who generally ruins the hobby for you for a little while, and you message people like me, and we read your stories out, right? So, with Games Workshop managers, the reason why I have so many stories, and other Games Workshop managers have so many stories, is because they come across it every day. Literally every day. Things stopped surprising me when I was a Games Workshop manager. Right? Like, negative things. They just stopped surprising me. The first few weeks I was like, oh my god, they're here? Right? You're here? But no, I stopped being surprised a few months into the job. Sometimes, even in our downtime, we're faced with the toxic side of the hobby. And that carries a lot of resentment with it. Rightfully so as well, in my opinion, because our downtime is our downtime, and screw you if you think you can mess with our downtime, right? We deserve downtime. So, let's go over some reasons with examples of why Games Workshop managers secretly despised a lot of you reprobates. Alright? Now, before I get into this, I'm not calling anybody out. I'm not saying that anybody watching this is a cretin or a horrible person. I'm just saying, this is what Games Workshop managers feel, and here's why, right? More than likely, you are not one of these people who piss off Games Workshop managers, but if they do seem standoffish or a bit like, you know, not all there with you, at least at the start, this is probably why. They're trying to figure you out. They're trying to make sure you're not one of these people. So, the first reason why we loathe hobbyists as a general concept is the word entitlement. Now, yes, this is a controversial one with the way Games Workshop behaves at times in a revolting way. Regardless, entitlement happens a lot in the hobby. Hobbyists enter the store to simply moan about prices and directions the hobby is taking, like you, the Games Workshop manager, actually have any power over things like that. But that happens all the time. That's the most common thing you get as a Games Workshop manager. Somebody will come in and moan about the hobby. That's literally all they'll do. But entitlement comes in many forms, from expecting to take up all of your time talking about their hobby when other customers have needs too, to giving unwanted or asked for advice, crowing about their armies and heroic stories involving themselves. Unfortunately, this accounts for about 60% of the fools coming into your store. I'm going to be honest, right? That's how I feel. About 60% of the people coming to your store who are adults are going to speak in this way. Every single story will end with a, and everyone started applauding sort of a thing, We had a guy come into the Games Workshop store that I worked in as a staff member, and we called him the Moan Hawk, because he had a mohawk and moaned a lot. Haha, look at that. Because, honestly, he would come in, he would stand there, and moan about Games Workshop and Warhammer constantly, to the point we honestly started to despise this guy. He would literally come in and just bring down the atmosphere of the store. Just bring it down. So everyone has to be miserable with him, sit in his little pit with him, Very rich person, very well off, IT professional, made a lot of money, bought a lot of models, but my God, you would not know that he enjoyed the hobby the way that he spoke about it to everybody. And you want to hear that with a kid standing there wanting to get into the hobby and this guy comes in, Just, oh my God. And people also forget that we are human, right? We are not manifestations of Games Workshop as Games Workshop managers. How would you feel if people came to your place of work just to tell you how shitty your job and your company is for most of the day? Every day. How would you feel? Yeah. You'd start to despise that person as well. And if multiple people started doing that, you would start associating hobbyists with these people. That's just the first one of a few examples that I've got. 2, public hobbyists being cretins. This is the one that really got under my skin and I wasn't expecting. This also happens a lot. I walk around to and from training, work, or going on holiday wearing my work gear, wearing my Games Workshop jumper, right? If I'm coming to or from work, going to another engagement. Only to be stared at and catcalled constantly. Oh yeah, it happens. For every one positive comment I got on a piece on some public transport or whatever I was, and by the way, I don't even want those really. I just want to read my book in peace. I'm not your friend, right? I just work for GW. I don't know who you are. I don't care to know who you are. For every one of those positive comments that I also didn't want, I would easily get 4 to 5 negative ones. Easily. People on public transport or train stations, even libraries. That happened multiple times. I don't know why. But even in libraries, wanted to pull me aside and talk about how the hobby is going downhill, quote unquote, and how disappointed they are. Yeah, let me just get on the phone to HQ for you there, mate, and sort it out for you. What do you want me to do? I'm here buying a fucking book. Like, what do you want me to do? I don't have the ear of Kevin Roundtree, right? We don't go for coffee. Just leave me alone, right? I don't have to put up with it. I don't want to put up with it. Just look, I understand that I'm wearing the Games Workshop manager's attire. I get that. And I get that I should probably have gotten changed before coming here. Okay, fair enough. But sometimes I just want to get a pasty. Sometimes I just want to get a Subway. And I don't want to have to get changed to go and do that, right? So please, just leave. If you see a Games Workshop manager out and about, make a comment if it's positive, yeah? But then leave him to himself. Him or her, leave them to it. Say, hey, I love the hobby. Thank you for what you do. Or whatever. Brilliant. They'll love that. Brilliant. And they'll be very happy about that. But don't pull them aside and try and talk to them about the hobby. They have lives. They have things to do. They have shopping to do. They have kids to look after. Leave us alone when we're not in the store. And if we're in a pub or something, fair enough. We are there to be talked to. Don't worry about that. But if we're just doing normal shit, just let us get on with our day. Please. Right? Here's a couple of stories for you about things that happened to me on public transport and other places when I was a GW manager. Once on a train, I was stared at by 2 hobbyists, mouth breathers, and I mean mouth breathers. They're sitting there, heavy set, leather jackets on, just breathing all over each other, right, with their big old Citadel carry cases. And I was on my way to Liverpool from Nottingham, so obviously they're on the way back from Nottingham going to somewhere. They spent the entire 2.5-hour journey staring directly at me as I tried to read. Right? Literally sitting here trying to read my White Dwarf. that I got for free because I work for Games Workshop. Haha. But anyway, I'm sitting here just trying to read my White Dwarf, right? Obviously trying to work. They're obviously trying to work up the courage to come and talk to me on a packed train. Let's get this train is packed, rush hour, and these guys are trying to work up the courage to waddle on over and talk to me about the hobby. Give me their stink, you know. And I was desperately hoping they would just sit there and not approach me. They did. It was awkward, and I have to say, I am not your friend. And whilst I appreciate you talking to me, I am not a celebrity at the end of the day, right? I get none of the perks of being a celebrity. I barely make more than minimum wage, so please leave me alone. You know? But I have to sit there, and generally, I talk to them for about 2 minutes, not even that. And I said, listen, guys, train's quite packed. Do you mind just going sitting back down again? Because, like, we're making it awkward for other people to get past. You know, we need to, you know... And they looked at me like I just slapped them in the face. But these are two very portly gentlemen taking up all the space in the aisle. Go sit your fat asses down and leave me alone, is what I should have said. But I was polite and asked them to go sit back down again, and they did. But I know they'll be on some Reddit post somewhere going, no, this Games Workshop manager didn't like us, no. Right, that's because, right, leave us alone. We're not there to be, like, looked at or spoken to if we're on public transport, right? That's just how it is. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. You know, I'm not always up for talking about Warhammer, especially when I've been around it for the past 8 hours. You know? I get the fact that you want to say hello. I get the fact that you want to talk about the hobby. Listen, 9 times out of 10, I was the kind of guy who didn't mind that kind of thing. But my God, the amount of stories that I've got when people just approach you out of nowhere, even when I'm running for a train, that's happened before. I've been running for a train that I'm about to miss, and somebody stopped me to talk to me about the hobby. Like, are you fucking shitting me? Get out of my way. I should have bowled him over, right? I made the train, by the way, because I just said, listen, I can't stop, blah, 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 and I ran on. But the fact that they tried, I'm obviously in a hurry, and they tried to stop me, you know? Another great example is when I'm on a train and go to put my bag in an overhead locker, right? And I hear someone shout from the back of the carriage, and I shit you not, Tau suck ass! Are you joking? Okay, now the entire carriage is looking at the guy from GW like these idiots are my responsibility. Yeah, newsflash, they're not. They're not, right? And I sat down, and people are tutting me. They're tutting me. As these guys at the back of the carriage are messing around and talking really loudly about the hobby and catcalling me, people are looking at me like I've got to go and sort them out. Go fuck yourself. They don't belong to me. I'm on a train. And I'm nowhere near where my store even is. I don't know who they are, where they're from, and I don't care to. Thank you very much, right? Happened so many times. So many times. One funnier example is when I took the missus for a post-work drink in my local city, the one that my store was in. A few weeks earlier, I had stopped Titan Guy from playing in my store. Now, if you're an aficionado of my channel, you know my first Games Workshop horror story was on Titan Guy. Go and check it out. But I'll give you a quick rundown whilst you're here. I had faced some backlash over that interaction online. Like literally, this waste of skin went online to tell large 40k groups that my store, and he named me in my store, did not allow Forge World at all. Complete lies, but there we go. I was one of the only stores that openly allowed you to use Forge World stuff. This guy walks in with a fucking Titan, and not even a Games Workshop one, a homemade one, in a baby stroller, and wanted to play it in my store on a 4x4 table. No, go fuck yourself, right? Anyway, I'm putting something on the jukebox weeks later, right? Weeks after this, I'm putting something on the jukebox in the pub. Whilst the missus gets a drink, and she comes over and asks me to put on some Paramore. I know. Just forgive her, guys. She was hot, right? Now, this is a metal pub, and I laugh and say, listen, they probably won't like that in here, babe, but I'll try, right? I can take that beating for you, no problem. And she just started laughing, you know, jolly old time. To which 3 hobbyists from another table shout, kind of like you don't allow Forge World, right? From a little ways away. Now, I should have let that go, but I did not, for 2 reasons. Number 1, the first one, is that I am currently 4 pints into a rather nice evening, right? And the second is that they felt it was appropriate to shout something that directly referenced me. But not only me, but lies about me and my place of business. This was not someone shouting their hate for an army or the hobby or whatever. It was somebody attacking me personally, right? Making a snide comment about me. I'm not a tough guy at all, but looking over, I see that these guys are around 20 years old and a bit wet behind the ears. Do you know what I mean? And my instant look over, they looked like terrified because they thought I'd just stand there and not do anything because, you know, I'm a hobbyist, right? They think I'm one of them. I'm not, you know, think I'm some little fucking dweeb. So I walk over and I simply state, look, I'm sorry, is there something you would like to say to me? It seemed like you were trying to talk to me there. What you shouted over was hard to understand. To which they said nothing. Right? I mean, no one expects to actually have to justify what they say. They just don't. So if you approach somebody who says shit to you and you ask them to repeat it very politely, 9 times out of 10 they won't, because number one, they don't have the balls. Number 2, if they do, they're escalating the situation and not you. And number 3, most of the time they're saying stupid shit, and if you ask them to actually explain what they mean by that, they have to implicate themselves as being fucking idiots, and so they don't, right? I shrugged and then say, well, it seemed like you were trying to take the piss out of my shop in a public place. I'd ask you not to do that and be more polite, please. And I walked away, right? For Games Workshop managers, this is the way to handle it if you confront it at all, right? If you confront it at all, this is the way you should handle it. And it's the only time I ever did it correctly. There are a bunch of other times where I shouted stuff back or I just told people to piss off, right? Don't do that. Politely ask them to repeat what they said and explain what they mean. And if they refuse to do that, tell them what you think they were trying to say and ask them not to and be more polite and simply walk away, right? I was very impressed. This is the only time I ever managed to do this, by the way. I have a million stories about when I made an arse out of myself by, like, getting annoyed with people, right? This is the only time when I literally did the right thing. And that's why I want to share it with you, because this is what you should be doing. Because keyboard warriors don't like having to talk to actual people. That's the kind of thing that they would put in a YouTube comment or a Facebook comment, right? And get no backlash for, and get little emoticons next to it, like, haha, little laughing emoticons next to it, right? But when somebody actually goes over and says, can you just explain that, please? Can you explain why you think that's appropriate to say that in a public place, about somebody's place of business? They can't. They can't, because they're morons. They're cowards, and they can't say shit like that. So, those are just some examples. But finally, the last thing I wanted to talk about, and I bet you most of you thought I was going to lead with this rather than going actually into some examples, but finally, we see the bad parts of the hobby more than you do. All the cretins who come into our stores, in my last video, right? The bad ones, the really bad ones. All the My Little Pony weirdos, and yes, if you're a man and you're into My Little Pony, you're a fucking weirdo. I'm sorry, you just are. You can come on and argue the point with me all you want. You're a grown man who's into My Little Pony. You can say that I'm into plastic toy soldiers all you like, but like 40k is a weirdly dark and adult thing, right? When you actually read about it. My Little Pony is My Little Pony. It's for kids. Please, stop doing that. You weird people out. You just weird people out. From those to the hentai aficionados wanting to show me how they have painted their crush, another hobbyist who is a Tyranid player, of course, being screwed by tentacle Tyranids. Yeah, we come across that on a weekly basis, and so our perceptions of you as a base of customers is, shall we say, a little bit skewed. Is it fair? No. But if it bleats like a goat, moves like a goat, looks like a goat, it's probably a fucking goat. The vast majority of hobbyists are awesome people, but as Games Workshop managers, we are asked to put up with minor celebrity status in our local hobby scene online and are paid a pittance to deal with the overwhelmingly negative response to such a person. As such, sometimes it's hard to look at the hobbyist with anything other than contempt, seething behind a please give me sales sort of smile. Am I sorry that that's the case? Yes, totally. I'm very, very, very sorry that that's the way that the hobby is. But it doesn't mean that we're wrong, because that is a shield that goes up, because we have to deal with so many fucking weirdos and reprobates coming into our stores and giving the rest of you a bad name, right? You know, I again, with the My Little Pony thing, I apologise if I offended you by that, but I've never known a normal one. Never. I've known plenty of My Little Ponies, bronies, right, in the past. Like, at least 2 or 3. Not plenty, 2 or 3, right, at university. Perfectly nice gentlemen, but they were all broken in some way, and one of them was actually very, very, very strange and kind of inappropriate to younger people. So, yeah, deal with that how you will, but you're, as far as I'm concerned, you're fucking weirdos, and I don't want you around me for the most part. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed my really judgmental video, talking about things that I'm barely qualified to talk about. I know, I'm glad that you probably all think that I'm a moron, and you are completely right. But I would like to invite you to have a wonderful rest of your week. I will be speaking to you tomorrow with more hobby nightmares. Have a wonderful day. Hope you had a good day at work, whatever you're doing. Go pick some models, have some fun, and, you know, enjoy life. See you tomorrow.